You can't beat the classics.
All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of You Can't Beat the Classics podcast. So, in our last episode, we promised you that the next episode, this one here, would be a movie from the year 1984. Oh, and we picked one. George
We
and Mike
certainly
are with
picked
me,
one.
as always. And yeah, we picked a really good one for 1984 here. I think I saw this on the list. We went through a few movies for this particular year. We saw this one and it said, "Yeah, it's got to be this. It's got to be this."
Yeah, no, it became pretty obvious when we were going through the list.
I was blown away by 1984's movie selection, by the way.
Yeah,
I thought-
1984 was a tough year, though. This did beat a handful, maybe even more than a handful of really good movies.
Yeah, definitely. This year, tough decision to make, but this is one of the ones that definitely stood out, I think. So for this episode here, number 7, we're going to be talking about 1984's The Terminator, directed by none other than James Cameron.
I know, right?
Oh man! All right, right off the bat, this is peak American sci-fi. This movie is excellent. Sure, they've tried to, make this a series, make the Terminator a series as much as possible with a slew of movies. But you always got to go back with in the franchise with this one, because this movie I said this to you guys just a few days ago. This was way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
So, do you guys remember the first time you saw the Terminator?
Yeah, the first time I saw Terminator, me and Mike's grandpa fell asleep, and he left the TV. He always used to watch like AMC classics with like black and white movies and stuff like that. But occasionally Terminator would come on, and I caught Terminator after he fell asleep watching some stupid Western. So that was my first time. Go ahead, Mike.
The first time I watched it was with my parents, and it was like one of those, okay, leave the room now. Okay, come back in. It was one of those things. We did the same thing with Jurassic Park. It was like the same scenario with that movie. But yeah, no, it was like I was very young, and I didn't really understand, the movie and the situations and all that stuff. So honestly, like, I've seen part here, a part there, and a part there on TV more recently, but I haven't actually like sat down and watched it, unedited from beginning to end. So this was a really great experience for me.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw it was definitely probably the same situation, George. Like, I saw it on AMC, wicked young when I first saw it. I think I might have seen, this is before I made like the cardinal rule of like, I was young, so like watching movies in order. I probably saw Terminator 2 before I saw this one. And like, I remember my dad telling me like, "Oh yeah, Arnold's a good guy in this one." I'm like, "Wait, he was a bad guy?"
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because like 3/4 through this movie, my wife, who like knows what the Terminator is, but she hasn't actually like watched any of them, she was like, "Wait, why is he a bad guy?" And I was like, "Oh damn!" Like that's awesome.
I love that you brought that up though, John, because I 100% remember watching this as a kid, thinking that Arnold was supposed to be the good guy. So like, I probably did watch it out of order. That's annoying to think about.
Yeah.
It's like a pet peeve. Ugh.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't do. I don't do that now. I always watch movies in order now. But this movie is just a lot of surprises at this one. I think a lot of the roles Arnold was doing, he was the action hero for a lot of the movies he was doing. So this was a totally different role for him.
Mm.
You know, a really menacing role for him, I think.
I think you're right. I mean, and two though, and this is one thing that I noticed once we start getting into the movie. His lack of dialogue in this movie makes him like way more interesting.
Mhm.
And I think it's also because he was pretty relatively new to acting, and he had a very, very thick accent. So I think that they wanted to make him robotic, but they also didn't want him to give him like some, weird, European or like Scandinavian accent because like why would a robot have that accent? You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
like his lack of dialogue made his character in this movie way more interesting too.
It's unique, right? It was like, I don't know. I don't think you can see a movie like that nowadays, right? Without CGI. Like
Oh,
how often do people like they easily could have CGI'd the robot stuff, and obviously we'll get to that. But like Arnold performed almost I would say 95% of everything. It was like Arnold as the robot, you know? So
but
I think
it's
that's
also
Yeah.
funny though. On some parts of the movie, you could see they had like animatronic heads that were modeled after
Mhm.
his resemblance, and it wasn't a CGI or anything like that. They actually like physically made a prop to
yeah,
resemble him, and I think that that's really interesting too, and a product of its time.
yeah.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get into it as we talk about the movies, but I think a lot of the practical effects in this movie for the time are just outstanding. You know, they look really,
Yeah.
really cool on screen. Um,
So like really quick, what I noticed is like obviously the you know the computer effects that they did, like the lightning is pretty terrible, and like some of the other stuff, like the flying ships were the product of their time, but like the
I thought they
action
were great.
sequences, oh come on, the action
I thought it was pretty
sequences,
cool.
the stunt driving, all that other stuff, like the physical effects were amazing, were just great.
yeah,
I mean,
I thought this. Oh, go ahead, George. Sorry.
no, I was just to say, I mean, if you thought those effects were kind of meh, I thought they were fucking dope. Not gonna lie.
I
I
just thought that they were dated.
it
In
reminded me
movie standards, they're dated.
it reminded me a ton of Aliens, the sequel, like
Yeah.
how they did that too. But I still thought like I don't know, man. I watched it and maybe it's nostalgia, right? Maybe I'm 32 years old and those are the action movies we grew up on. But I saw it and I was like, all right, time to go to war. Like, let's go, Kyle. And I thought immediately
Yeah.
of Terminator Salvation, and I was like, how it all connects down the road. So I guess the rewatch now is better, but maybe it saved the effects a little bit because of nostalgia.
Yeah. All right, we're about to get into the movie here, but before we do that, we always want to watch the trailer. So let's see the trailer for the Terminator.
That aged well.
In the 21st century, a weapon will
Oh,
be
classic movie voice.
no other. This weapon will be powerful, versatile, and indestructible. It can't be reasoned with. It can't be bargained with. It will feel no pity, no remorse, no pain, no fear. It will have only one purpose: to return to the present and prevent the future. This weapon will be called the Terminator.
You're dead, honey.
What day is it? The date? 12th May, Thursday. Year! I'm here to help you. I'm Reese, DN 38416, assigned to protect you. You've been targeted for termination.
What does it want me? Why me?
Arnold
Let's just
Schwarzenegger
blank
is
stare.
the Terminator. Your future is in its hands.
That feels
Bro.
more. That feels like like that would be like a teaser trailer, like these days. That's what that one felt like.
How do you not like the war scenes, man? Like, damn, that was
So
fire.
they just seem a little dated, and I know that they're all practical effects, so like it's cool that he like modeled it and he made models for it and all that stuff. It's just I'm not expecting much out of a movie from 1984. It
Right.
just like in today's movie standards, they're just dated, and like it's not that I think that they're good. It's just that I think they're nostalgic, which is just different for me.
I guess I'm kind of thinking about it too in the realm where 1984, I still remember the movies on that list. Like you had Ghostbusters, you had Neverending Story, you had a few other movies on that list. And
Yeah.
I guess because the effects look so much better in Terminator than they do in those like other movies that are relied on special effects. Like Ghostbusters relied on special effects, and
Mhm.
Neverending Story was just a fucking smattering of special effects. I thought it was like better than that. I was even for today's time too. It's like not bad, not bad. You
Yeah, this movie, it felt like there was a lot more. They wanted to concentrate more on like something actually in front of you as opposed to a special effect.
But that's James Cameron, I think, in a nutshell.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's he like put out of the park with this one here. So let's start diving right into the movie here. So we're met in the year. So it's Los Angeles in the year 2029, which we're not that far away from. Another 8 years.
Soon.
Another 8 years, and we're there. But it looks like
Can I intercept this for one
Yeah.
second?
Yeah.
Later on in the movie, and not to give anything away, Sarah Connor's asking questions about the future and her future son, and he says that he started his tour of service with John Connor in 2021. He served with John Connor from 2021 to 2027.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting.
I didn't even pick up on that. Neat.
Yeah.
Protect Connor.
But the world is ravaged by machines, and so we get that introduction there, with the set of 2029, and that's it. I mean, we had that text box there too, which I can't remember what that said, but it was pretty much just describing the scene for us, and that you're met with that familiar Terminator theme in the title screen.
Do.
Yeah. And then we're brought to the present day, 1984, and it looks like Arnold arrives from the future, naked. That's what I put. Like I think like Kyle Reese explains it later. He's like, you go in naked.
Yeah.
Like nothing dead can come through.
Yeah, it can only transport biological matter.
Yeah.
I'm happy they explained that because like a lot of my things are about naked time travel.
But yeah, even I don't want to get too far ahead, so I'll save it for
But
later.
like
But yeah.
Arnold shows up, he's fully butt ass naked. And he is a fucking mammoth. And I wrote down that if you see a naked Hercules, you fucking run.
Yeah, Bill Paxton. Bill Paxton, you don't fight him.
Yeah.
I have Bill Paxton question mark.
Yeah, these these 80s punks don't know what's about to hit them.
It's so funny that you mentioned Bill Paxton because I was like, is that him?
That's totally Bill Paxton.
Yeah. Yeah.
Loved Bill Paxton.
Your clothes, give them to me. That was the
What'd you
worst
say,
Arnold
freak?
accent. But
Oh, that's great.
well, it's like, yeah, like he takes care of him pretty quickly. It's like, yeah, I mean, yeah. As soon as I see somebody put their hand through somebody else, I'm gonna give them my clothes.
Yeah,
No.
that's how to start the movie.
Yeah.
Old
Right.
Indiana Jones death grip.
And then enter Kyle Reese from the future, naked.
I have in bold.
Well-
Why is Kyle also naked?
Well, yeah. Well, there's two big differences from when Arnold arrives and when he arrives. When Arnold arrives, it's like nothing. When Kyle arrives, like he's in serious like pain, which he describes later that it's painful to travel through time. But I thought that was an interesting difference there between the two.
Yeah, and it's funny because Whitney asked me, she's like, "Oh, so is he a human?" And I was like, "Do you see how he's in pain right now?" And like when the Terminator came through, he was totally fine.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like a nod, like, "Oh, these two people travel through time and they're not the same."
Well, like this, and like the police immediately start chasing him. But I'm like, what did he do?
He did steal the pants off of a homeless guy.
True. Well, the cops described him as like, we got a guy rabbiting over here.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I'm like, I don't know what that term means, but but all right, fine. The police are chasing him. And like, all right, I know you have to. I know he has to like, he has to act fast, because he was sent there to save Sarah Connor, protect Sarah Connor. But I was like, maybe play it a little bit cooler when you arrive from the future. Don't immediately draw attention to yourself by attacking the cops.
Yeah. The first part of this movie too, I think it's really interesting. He gets two weapons like so easily. Like he gets the weapon from the cop that he holds up, and then he steals one out of the car before he leaves. But it's like really interesting, like how easily it was to evade the cops and get. I literally wrote like cops in the '80s suck. Yeah, cops 40 years ago suck.
Yeah. I put how terrible are these cops. They can't find one guy getting dressed right behind them. Like when they were in the little mall or whatever, he was literally like 2 aisles away of those like fucking Turner racks, and then he just starts taking clothes off and getting dressed, and he's looking around smiling. And it's like, man,
Yeah.
okay.
So I also want to mention here too, and this is kind of like really interesting about this movie, and like I was been trying to think of another movie that was the case. In this movie, the first 25 minutes of this movie, really, there's only like 6 lines spoken by main characters in this whole in the first like 25 minutes of this movie, because the Terminator shows up, he does the "Give me your clothes" line, and then he beats the crap out of those 3 people and gets clothes. Reese shows up, doesn't say a single thing, and evades like 12 cops, gets 2 guns.
Yeah.
And then like they just go on to Sarah from there, but literally it's like 20 or 25 minutes has passed and there's only been like a few lines of dialogue. It was really interesting. I never realized that, like having watched it before.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. I said, wow, not a lot is being said here. But I mean, but you still understand what's going on too.
Yeah, like you get it. It's just weird.
It is odd, yeah.
It's just a different way to tell a story, but he told it without having to say anything, which is like building the mystery behind the Terminator and this other person. Because you don't know why he's there. You still don't know why both of them are there at this point.
Yeah, you kind of like see like they arrive, from the same time and arrive in similar fashion, but like I think the lack of dialogue, you really get like the duality between the two.
Right.
Which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now enter Sarah Connor before she's totally traumatized for the rest of her life. It was odd. I mean, it was odd seeing Sarah Connor like this because because I think a lot of us know her to be like, just like a badass now, from, Linda Hamilton, this role is just solidified her as that. But you see an innocence to her at the beginning. She's just the young adult working at a restaurant.
Gets stood up on a date.
Oh, but
yeah,
the people in this restaurant, I was like, these Like, why would you behave this way to people that work in restaurants? Like, I'm super nice to like servers and like even if they like mess something up or whatever, like I'm nice to them, whatever. So like to see those people acting like that to a server, it bothered me.
Yeah, no, yeah, I agree. But
Yeah,
I think they were trying to build like how
Yeah.
plain and boring our life was and all that stuff, and that was just one way to do it.
No,
I can't.
definitely, yeah.
I couldn't imagine being as rude as some of those people were, and like Sarah still going to work. Like F that.
I know the
Oh,
kid
yeah.
puts a scoop of ice cream in her
In her
apron,
pocket and walks
then
away.
yeah, and then someone was like, "You're the real hero here, kid," or something was the line, and I was like, "What?
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna scold the child? Like what the hell's going on, man?" Yeah,
I'd be
different
like,
times.
kick these people out of here.
You know one thing I noticed from this scene too that is like just different. It's just like product of a different time. Did you notice all the people that were smoking in the restaurant?
Oh yeah.
And it's just like
Yep.
you never see that. You never see that now. And like they flip over to the police station in a little bit, and there's just people smoking all over the
Oh,
place.
yeah.
I just think it's funny.
Very dated.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it's 40 years old.
I remember when I was a kid, like the bowling alley like just reeked of cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they still have around here. They still have a lot of those bowling alleys that have like the original like seating, and they all have the built-in ashtrays that are like, they're like big friggin' metal serving bowls for ashtrays because that's how
Yeah.
much people smoked when they were bowling.
No, I know, just different time. It shows even more here how different of a time is. When it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, how easy it is to get a gun. Arnold just going into a store and just buying all these guns.
He didn't buy them.
Not
How
bullying.
cruel-
Oh yeah, that's right. He didn't buy them, but
How cruel was that he made the guy work moments before he killed him? Like, obviously you were going to kill him regardless because you
Yeah,
weren't
why don't you just like go in there, crush his skull, and then take whatever you want?
so mean to the man. He literally worked till he died.
By the way, that was a pretty big actor too.
I recognized him, but I couldn't think of the name.
I had it here. I lost it. But like he was Dick Miller.
Okay, yeah, he looked familiar.
So he was a pretty big name. So like it's funny though because you get Bill Paxton in the very beginning. You get Dick Miller who has he has some other credits to his name. Earl Bone. Like you get like a bunch of these other actors for like seemingly small roles in this movie that became something humongous. Right? It was just pretty cool how like they had like these small little appearances in this movie.
Yeah.
Like half the cast is in Aliens. I noticed that.
It's
throughout
true,
the
yeah.
movie. Like the second detective, like the weird looking white guy, is the robot, and then
Yeah.
Kyle Reese is one of the Marines, the lieutenant. It's crazy.
Oh, true. It's true.
Yeah, so so this part in the gun store, I'm like, all right, I don't know too much about how gun stores work. And I know obviously they would sell ammunition in the store. That's a given. But who would have live rounds on the counter for somebody to grab like that and load? He's like,
Product of a different time.
He's like, you can't do that. It's like,
Well, I
well, he can.
I think it's funny that you're not even bringing up. So they have a semi-automatic shotgun, which
Yeah.
are illegal, like
Well, yeah, like I don't
tons
know
of
how gun
places.
stores work. Yeah.
And the Uzi.
An Uzi, which is illegal everywhere because it's essentially a pistol.
He would have had the plasma rifle, but they didn't have it in. They didn't have it
That's true. Yeah. Just what you see, buddy.
I laughed so hard.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh yeah, another guy asking for plasma rifles.
So I mean, so they labeled Dick Miller as a pawn shop clerk, not like a gun shop owner. So this is also like not a gun shop; it's a pawn shop apparently. But what they're selling isn't legal these days. So I'm assuming like it's just product of a different time. That's how they sold guns back in the day. There were no trigger locks on anything. There was just live ammunition there, just because it's probably a careless shop owner that like this stuff is obvious, but it wasn't required like it is now.
That makes sense.
Yeah. like fatal mistake that it made him close early, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's funny though. Like he has an Uzi, he has a semi-automatic shotgun, and he has this like assault rifle, like a fully automatic assault rifle. And he's like, you can take the rifles today, but it's a 15-day hold on the pistol.
Yeah.
The more dangerous weapons you can take today, no problem.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, what? I'm like, but okay.
Yeah.
So so Arnold takes takes the guns, and then I think this is where he looks through the phone book, and Sarah Connor #1 is about to get smoked.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And she
Well,
does.
I mean, I had my notes too. Like, how with all the technology they had, how were they so reliant on the phone book? like hello?
I mean, like, which technology did they have?
I mean, they came from the fucking future.
Oh,
but they couldn't bring anything with them.
and
Yeah,
they do explain that they had no idea where she was. They just had a city and a name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
that's
don't know. I watched that and I was just like, AT&T must have been so fucking happy.
No, it's funny though, yeah. But this is also a product at a different time. You'd never see. First off, most people nowadays aren't even listed in phone directories because they've opted to be not listed. But like,
Yeah.
can you imagine just like walking down the street and like going to this phone that's in the middle of nowhere that you can use to call people, and it just has a book attached to it that tells you everyone's address and phone number? Like, that's wild.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
that would
wild.
never fly today.
And like back at the restaurant, he's like, "Oh, like Sarah, come look at this. Another Sarah Connor died."
Yeah,
And it's like, oh, it's like, yeah, funny coincidence now, not funny later.
yeah. They completely gloss over the second Sarah Connor, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
The first one though, they're like celebrating it like they were gonna go get cake and be like, Sarah, you're famous. Like, hello?
Someone died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a part. This is a part here too. After this, that they cut to the future a little bit. Kyle might be explaining something here. I can't remember.
No, he was sleeping.
He falls
He was
asleep in the
sleeping.
car,
He was dreaming.
the crane sets off a memory.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. But yeah, it goes back to what you said, George. I love like futuristic, like dystopian, like sets like this. And just the sound effects, the music, and everything was just super 80s. I'm a sucker for that stuff. I love it.
Right? It just hits. Like you know it's not real when you're looking at it. Like the explosion that on the tracks of the Terminator like tank or whatever. It's like an electric fuse popped, a big one, versus an explosion.
Yeah.
But like you watch it and you're like, yo, everything had fucking sparks, even the Power Rangers for some reason. So yeah, it's fine. Let's go. Proceed. I don't know. It just hits different. It's not great, but it hits different.
I'm just watching this. I kind of wrote like a Beavis and Butthead line here. I wrote, "The future sucks." I wrote down in my notes here because Kyle was not having a good time there. All right, you cut back to Sarah and her friend here. Some dude calls. It must be like the boyfriend of the other girl.
Yeah.
Oh my god, this dude's phone talk was so cringe.
Hey, when you can't text it, how are you gonna do
I know,
it?
dude. That's what I was literally about to say.
That's
these
true.
days, guys send a DP. Those days, you just randomly dial up a number, and when someone picks up, you just start talking dirty.
So I want to I wonder how many of like people that actually happened to. Like, there's no shot that was it had to have been that common if they put it in the movie to like timestamp nostalgia and everything. But like,
Yeah.
that's so fucking gross. That's so fucking
This
gross.
is weird. And then they find out, rest in peace, Sarah Connor #2. She's gone. But
yeah,
they do kind of ignore that.
yeah, they just kind of gloss over it, and he's just like, check out the name, man. And then they're like, you gotta be shitting me. It's just like, it's like super dramatic.
Yeah, like the detective didn't give a crap, but then he saw that the names were the same, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute,
Dude, and you know what the worst part about that whole thing is? Like, see, I saw these two people have died, and they're literally complaining about like, oh, this is gonna make the news. Like that's all they're complaining about is that it's gonna be on the news, and I'm like,
God forbid people find out."
yeah, it's like, oh, I hate these like 1-day serial murderers, blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh man, like, like how much does this happen to them that they're just annoyed by it?
That was weird too. That like, okay, it happened twice. You can't get a squad over to the remaining Sarah Connors' houses because obviously something's up. I don't know.
Yeah.
That part lingered.
Well, meanwhile, Sarah Connor's roommate is getting throttled
Yeah,
by the dirty talker.
So much so that she goes to make a sandwich.
Dude, did you see though? She was gonna make a lit bologna sandwich. She had the bread, she had the lettuce, she had the mayo, she had the tomato.
I thought she was gonna make like a 12-foot like hero that you have like at like Super Bowl parties.
I know.
She has so much stuff.
She had so much stuff, and then that whole gallon of milk. I'm like, Jesus.
I know.
Like this girl is like, she's replenishing.
Where does she put it? Now all of a sudden picturing her walking back
Yeah.
to bed with a big 12-foot hero and a gallon of milk.
Dude, you know what's funny? Do you have IMDb up for this movie? I was gonna say. So her name is Sean Sheps, and you can tell where she put it. She got kind of big.
Oh.
Which I just think is funny because I was thinking too. I was like, man, that's gonna be a ridiculous sandwich. And then I'm looking at a picture of her now, and I'm like, oh, makes sense.
Bess Mata?
What? Is that her name?
Yeah, Ginger.
Oh, it was Ginger. No, Ginger was the waitress, wasn't it?
No, Ginger was the.
I have them backwards. Dang it.
Yeah, this girl's a dime, bro.
Yeah, I know she's a dime. I got it backwards. I was looking at the waitress lady. My bad.
Oh, okay.
Her movie career didn't last too long.
Nope, she only has 3 credits.
Anyway, I think Sarah gets stood up, and so she goes to catch a movie by herself, but the police are trying to contact her, like to say, hey, this weird thing is going on. You got to get to a safe place. Sarah finds out about it, and she's like freaking out.
She's at a bar, and she sees it on the news.
Yeah, and like the word is out, like you got to go hide, Sarah. And then they're trying to get in contact with her, and she feels like she's being followed, so she goes into that club, which $450 cover for that club.
Dude, and so much neon.
Oh yeah.
There's 5 people just flailing about in that club. They made $20.
This is one thing I was wondering, what the heck was Sarah thinking? Like, you had access to a phone in a quiet restaurant, but you chose to use the phone in the loud club that you can't hear anything.
You know, it's pretty awesome.
Just one minor thing I saw.
So Reese was able to find her without using a phone book. Good job, Reese.
No, he ripped a page out of the phone book too.
Did he actually?
He did, yeah.
So he just so happened to find her before the Terminator did?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. The Terminator finds her friends because he finds out that's where the last Sarah Connor is, so he goes there. She's not there. But I think Matt is the name of the weird guy on the phone, and he gets the crap kicked out of him. And they're both dead. She's trying to make a sandwich, and they're both gone.
And then she has to call at that exact moment and leave the message.
Oh, bad timing on the voicemail.
Yeah.
But he like flew to that club. He got there so fast.
He beat the cops there.
Yeah, he got there in a minute. And this is one of the scenes I remember seeing, as a kid, before I saw the movie in its entirety. I remember this because of the timing. I remember it so like Reese, like Kyle Reese is already there. The Terminator arrives, and the Terminator's about to kill Sarah, but then that's when Kyle Reese acts, and just boom, the shotgun. I feel like I don't know about you guys. I felt like any time like a shotgun like went off in this movie, like I don't know if it was just the sound effects that were added in and like the way that like people like received like the blast, but I just felt like just boom every time somebody got hit with a shotgun
Yeah.
bullet. I was just, it just you felt it.
Small cannons.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kyle finally picks up Sarah. Come with famous line that gets used a couple of times in the franchise. Come with me if you want to live.
Yeah.
And the chase is on. Arnold took all those guns from the store, right? And I'm like, why didn't he bring them with him? Like, I feel like he only had the shotgun.
No, he had the Uzi there too.
Did he have the Uzi? Okay.
He had the pistol and an Uzi. See, Reese had the shotgun, but
Yeah.
so he had the pistol. He was aiming directly at Sarah's head, and then he
Oh,
gets
he must have
shot.
lost it.
And then he spins to kill Reese, and he shoots like all the innocent bystanders with the Uzi.
Oh, okay.
And then Reese is the one with the shotgun at this point, but he doesn't have his yet. The first time you see his shotgun is when he goes to the police station.
The chase sequence here was pretty neat. I thought it was very well done. And Arnold just gets singed at one point, and I'm like, this dude looks even. This dude, I mean, he needed that creepy look, I think, with just no eyebrows on anybody. It's just,
Yeah, I noticed
automatically
that too.
It freaks me out automatically.
They showed like a close up of his face, and I'm like, ugh, like where the hell are his eyebrows, man?
Yep, he's one ugly motherfucker.
Yeah.
Mm.
These indestructible '80s cars throughout this whole sequence here.
Yeah. You know what else is really awesome about this car?
Yeah.
This car chase. This is the first time that you see Arnold impersonate a voice. Like he
Yeah.
copies the cop's voice to
Yep.
get call outs on the radio, which sets up some later stuff I think is really cool. Like how they just worked it in so subtly here.
Yeah, it's true. That is kind of a subtle, like every Terminator has that, right? The changing of the voice thing always fucking
And it
gets
started
me.
there.
Always fucking gets me.
Yeah, it started
Yeah.
there.
It's a lot different when movies have like the bad guy or like the killer or whatever, as a machine rather than like a person. Like I feel like when a bad guy or somebody like this is like a person, like you grow to hate them, with their personality and everything, but like this guy, he has no personality. No, he's just
No emotion.
and he's just programmed, to do this one thing. So, it hits a lot differently for the viewer, like in terms of like him being a bad.
Yeah, because you can see like he's not emotionally invested into it. He's just doing what he's doing.
We kind of get some more exposition here as to why why Kyle Reese, went to protect Sarah like this. And, we find out, we all know the reason for it all now. John Connor is supposed to be born. Yeah, he's the one that's supposed to, help humanity in the future. So it's very important that Sarah stays alive. All right, first, Arnold got away really fast when they finally, when he smashes into that wall there, and the cops all get there.
Yeah.
You see Kyle Reese, he's about to shoot the cops. And Sarah's like, no, he's like, they're going to kill you if you do. And all right, good thing he didn't shoot the cops
Yeah.
because he would have been dead.
Yeah. But then that sets up like the next 15 minutes of just being like furious at this movie, in my opinion, at least. Just like, because like Sarah like totally buys in prior to this point. She's like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm a Sarah Connor person. Like, I don't really know how I'm gonna do it, but like this is my role, and like I believe him entirely. And then all of a sudden she goes to the police station. She's like, is he crazy?
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay.
Yeah, so now we're brought to the police station here. And all right, we meet this Dr. Silverman. And automatically with this guy, he just says a few lines here, but his body language and everything, it just tells you what kind of doctor he is right off the bat. And it sets up for an interesting, I guess it's not really an interrogation because, he's a criminal psychologist or whatever, really, but it makes for an interesting back and forth between Kyle Reese and him later on. But they're cutting back to Arnold too, as he's like trying to like repair himself. Dude, the makeup at this part, unreal for this time period.
I agree.
Like, I love 80s like super graphic like makeup like that.
Yeah. I mean, nowadays we can tell that that's super fake. So, for Cameron's type movies, the feel he likes to have, I feel like that today would have been CGI'd. I
Oh,
feel
definitely.
like, yeah.
Yeah, but it was all practical here. Like
Yeah.
they were messing around with like these pulleys inside of an arm, and like he was moving the fingers. It was pretty cool. And then he goes up to his face. He cuts off his eyeball.
Oh god, dude. That part, just the makeup is extraordinary in that.
And then he puts on the iconic sunglasses.
Now he's got the real like notable like Terminator look, glasses, the leather jacket. Yeah, this is the Terminator look that people will be familiar with. We're going back and forth between what's going on with him in the police station, and the doctor. The doctor is just eating this up. Everybody is with what Kyle Reese is trying to explain. This dude's like straight up telling him the truth about everything. But I mean, it as hard as it is to believe something like that, they're kind of like poking fun at him too. It's like, oh yeah, he's definitely crazy.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was weird that like they didn't even really listen to anything he was saying. I get how outlandish it sounds, but like I don't know, just weird. And it's not like they didn't have eyewitnesses that Kyle Reese wasn't the killer, right? Like half the club must have seen Arnold in his fucking gorilla costume and been like,
the cops. I feel like the cops too. Like literally, they had like an explanation for like everything that happened. Like Sarah's like, how did he punch his hand through a window? And the cops like, oh, must have been on PCP.
Yeah, he won't feel that pain for another couple hours. I'm just like, ah.
you, sir, have never taken PCP.
Yeah, they're literally just like eating up all this.
Yeah.
You find out a lot from Kyle Reese too, and you find out all about Skynet. Skynet didn't know anything about Sarah, so otherwise it probably would have been a lot easier to just take her out. But the fact that like even they didn't know anything. Yeah, a lot of exposition there on the time period that he comes from and all that. But the doctor goes home for the. And I always forgot that the doctor is the one that walks by him when he's entering the police station.
And it's funny because in upcoming movies, he's hailed as like the one that survived the police station massacre.
Well, he wasn't even there.
He wasn't even there.
You get the famous line from Arnold, "I'll be back." Between him and this cop at the desk, and he just smashes his way into the police station. Oh, he back. This is definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie. Just this police station just massacre.
Didn't the car at the beginning feel a little unnecessary though?
Yeah, he could have literally just like pulled open that door.
It felt a little unnecessary.
Yeah, it's funny though. You see like the ragdoll
cool entrance.
If you like, so I watched back that scene like when he crashes through a couple times because like the rag doll of the cop flying into the wall behind him is just hilarious on so many levels.
Funny, yeah.
It happens a couple other times during this movie too, where they just have like obvious ragdoll and like like obvious like stand-in puppets or whatever that are meant to like, and like the ragdoll in them is just so hilarious.
Well,
Because you can't control.
And then like the way people just like fly when they get shot by guns in this part. I always try to find like the craziest one, or like the funniest one. Like the funniest one I think for me in this part was like the main like detective guy. I don't remember his name. I know he was in charge of like everything at the police station. But
Traxler.
I thought his was funny. I thought his was the funniest.
Yeah, like is it when he gets shot and he like sits against the door and then the other guy's like, "Hey!" And he goes out in the hallway and gets blown away.
Like, shoots Terminator, and then Terminator just one bullet, and he's like,
Yeah, what a weak ass line too. Hey,
and then he just like appears in the hallway.
like, that's Conan, bitch.
Maybe now they'll learn to listen to the man from the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sarah and Kyle escape, from the police station, and they hide underneath this. They hide under like this like highway underpass, whatever it is. Kyle got shot apparently. Well, when she starts fixing him up, I'm like, where did she get the first aid kit?
The trunk of the car.
Okay.
Right before they pushed the car into the woods, they took some stuff out of the trunk, and that was just one of
Okay.
them. They found it in the underpass.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, was this just a first aid kit underneath the highway?
Yeah, they're playing
Yeah.
Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. You cut back to more glimpses of the future because, Kyle Reese is elaborating on it more. And I'm like, wow, the future really sucks.
Yeah.
And,
So this is also the point where Reese says that he served under John Connor from 2021 to 2027. This is the part in the movie where he says that.
This is one of the interesting parts. You see that guy that breaks in and then he starts shooting. And I think this is when they started discovering that like Terminators like this existed, because they couldn't tell that he was a Terminator because he looked human.
Right.
And like that's what made these things so scary for them, was that they had no idea of telling. The only way they knew of being able to tell was dogs. Dogs were able to sniff out, who was a Terminator and who was just a regular person. You didn't have to kill the dogs. I hate when animals die in movies. I really,
Yeah.
really hate it, but it happened off screen, so it's fine. It's whatever. But I think that was why the Terminator took them out.
This part here is also pretty different too, because Reese explains like the Terminators created like I forget what model he said, but he was like they sweat, they their hair grows, they they have living skin, and they even have the bad breath. And I'm like man, like there's so much about this that like in real life 2021 hasn't been replicated.
Just love that it subtly like was an Easter egg too for Terminator 2. Just lay that in there real quick.
But you see that Kyle had a picture of her, so I was like, all right, so he did know what she looked like.
Yes.
So yeah, so he knew a little bit more than what the movie was presenting at first. Cut back to Arnold in his crappy apartment that he bought. I forget what the guy walks by the room and he's like, "Oh, is a cat dying?" I forget what he said.
You got a dead cat in there?
Dead cat in there? He's going through these responses, and the one he goes to, "Fuck you, asshole."
Because why not? Yeah.
And the guy's like, "Oh yeah, that's it. All right, I'll just leave."
Yeah. And then it's funny, the next scene they show him walking down the hallway with the freaking assault rifle just in the air, and the guy's like, "Oh shit."
All right, this is where Sarah makes a huge mistake, and it plays into something you mentioned a little while ago, Mike. She's on the phone with who she thinks is her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And the mother, I say that with quotes, is like saying, "Oh, just tell me where you are. That way I can help you. Please, I want to help my daughter." And oh my God, Kyle Reese, you forgot to tell her the Terminator can disguise voices.
I know. He told her not to say it, not to talk to anyone and tell him anything, but he didn't tell him why.
Literally said every single thing about how they look human, how they they pass gas, they sweat or whatever, and all this stuff. But you didn't tell her that they can change voices.
Fatal flaw.
Key component here.
And then this dinky hotel room, and they make a John Connor.
Oh, it was bound to happen,
dude. So it's funny because like I was watching the scene, and like the wife was there and all that stuff, and I was like, why is she making that face? It looks like she's in pain. Like this does not look like she's enjoying herself. Like I don't know if you guys noticed that as well.
It's the mullet. Don't worry.
Oh, it's the big hair.
Yeah. Like where are you supposed to put it?
I just thought that was funny.
You're bound to see Linda Hamilton at least somewhat naked at some point during this movie.
And we did.
Yeah, so John Connor is not born. I shouldn't say born. That'd be
conceived.
But conceived made. The Terminator arrives, so it's time to go. He's chasing him down again. like Kyle Reese is like throwing out these like pipe bombs he made at the hotel. But
Yeah.
you know what? I was like, all right, he's throwing these, but I'm like, he stuck out way too far of that window. I'm like, of course he was going to catch a bullet.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like, might as well have just been put his arm out waving. Oh, hey.
Yeah, but like,
Like-
this is the part too where like they're fighting him and all that stuff, right? And he gets run over by that tractor trailer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
That
so like
that truck hit. I was like, oh.
yeah, it hits Arnold Schwarzenegger. He grabs onto it, and then like the truck driver stops to do a respectable thing and be like, "Oh my god, I just killed a guy," and then he gets destroyed, and now all of a sudden Terminator has an 18-wheeler.
get out. This 18-wheeler is chasing them both down. I'm like, all right. I feel like the truck would have caught up to them, even with them running. I'm like, that truck was going, like, he would have been flooring it.
Yeah,
Like,
trucks
he would've-
aren't known for their speed.
Well, but I mean, but he's a machine, so like he would have put that pedal to the floor. So I was like, that truck would have been going, I think a lot faster than what it was going. So I don't know. I thought they were outrunning the truck pretty easily, but it's fine. Um, because literally the truck just goes up in smoke. Like the next scene, there's boom,
Yeah,
there's explosion.
I think it's funny during their sign too, because like Sarah and Kyle are now like out of the car and they're like running on foot away from this truck. And at one point, like the truck is like 6 feet behind Sarah Connor, and then in the next scene, she's like 30 feet away from it. and
Yeah.
and my wife was just like, "Oh man, like how did that happen? How is she outrunning a truck right now?" I just thought that was funny.
It's because he stalled the transmission. It's the standard, man.
Obviously, yeah, he's a robot, but like he's not perfect.
Imagine, like, oh my god, just imagine like all the outtakes with Arnold driving a stick shift on a movie set. How many times do you think he fucking broke it or like got frustrated because he's so fucking big? Like, he's a big dude, and they just assumed he could fit into like sedans and stuff like that, and sit out the window and shoot.
This was one cool part. You see, when you saw him burning up and like that wreckage, the skin burning off and everything like that, I thought was awesome. But so, like Kyle and Sarah think it's all over, and this is one of the many times where it's like, no, you didn't get him.
Yeah. So they blow it up, and the whole truck's on fire, and he's in the middle of it, and then all of a sudden he isn't.
I want to find out, what they did. I think for this part, because this was really really cool. What they used to make like this Terminator move. It looked like stop motion to me.
I think it
Yeah.
might have been because
Yeah.
Whitney even mentioned she's like, "Why can't he walk now?" And I was like, "Whitney, I don't think you understand. Like this is a model that they made to do pretty much stop action movement in 40 years ago. I thought that this effect was actually pretty cool.
Oh, this was awesome. I thought the design of the Terminator was cool too. But then yeah, it definitely looks like it's stop motion here, which I think stop motion too is a lengthy process too. So it's not something, it's obviously not something you see done nowadays with CGI and everything like that. But at the time, that was a very lengthy process. But once the work pays off usually, and I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I
It
think
looks
they did good.
it looks awesome in this. Terminator's chasing him throughout this factory here, which is kind of neat. They're turning on all the other machines so that way they're easily hidden from the Terminator. Kyle Reese, he's like in bad shape throughout this whole sequence here. But he finds just the right time to put a bomb in him, and it's boom, another explosion.
Blows him right in half.
But he blows the Terminator in half, but he kills himself in the process.
Do we think Kyle Reese, now that he's dead, is like an all-time action character, or was Sarah Connor the like, how to rephrase this? So you know how like in a lot of these like big action adventure movies, I know this is a sci-fi technically, but like Avengers, you have Iron Man as the big hero, right? Like, do you think Kyle Reese is the big hero of the Terminator franchise now that we just did the storybook ending to him? He's dead, he's gone. Was Kyle or Sarah or John the big hero?
I think that's the interesting part about this franchise, though, is because like the hero changes throughout the entire franchise, right? Because
Yeah.
you can argue in the second movie that Arnold Schwarzenegger's character is the hero,
Or
even though like it should probably be Sarah Connor at that point.
I guess what I'm getting at is it like the chicken or the egg? Like, is John the big hero, or is Kyle Reese actually the big hero, or is Sarah Connor the hero? Because she's, I mean, even up to the most recent movie, she held the line for like the timeline and what's supposed to happen. So like, I think it's just a weird dynamic when you think of it, knowing the full story now. And you look back on Kyle Reese, and it's like Kyle Reese was gigantic. Like, he was only there for 3 days, and he was huge.
I think it's a tough argument, and I think it speaks well with how good a lot of the characters are.
Yeah.
In this, from the hero's perspective, like yeah, John Connor was responsible for leaving the Resistance, but I mean, he wouldn't have existed if Sarah, hadn't stayed alive and pushed for that, future with John in it. But at the same time, none of that would have happened if Kyle Reese hadn't volunteered to go back to the past and and start all of this. So I think it's a nice split between all of them.
It's pretty unique. I really that was something that stuck out with me watching it this time, because this is the first time I've watched it start to finish, thinking about Kyle Reese and what happens in Salvation and everything else. It's like, okay, and watched it and was like, is Kyle? Is it Kyle? Is it John? Oh man, it was just when he died, that was exactly the conversation I was having in my head for about 10 minutes.
But yeah, Kyle Reese, he's the hero, and he sacrifices himself, I guess, in a way. But the Terminator's still alive, and he's still the chase is still on. This was a part of the movie. I think as a first time viewer of this is where you think it's over here. All right, the hero is down, the hero is out. The machine is blown in half. Can't possibly get up from that, and you're kind of met with almost a jump scare kind of thing. No, it's still going.
Yeah,
which I thought was neat.
Yeah, it was definitely unique storytelling for the time, right? Usually you don't lose the heroine and you usually don't lose both the heroines. So like the fact that Kyle was gone and Sarah had no protection, ooh, spicy.
And then we're finally met, third time's the charm, just crushed. You're terminated, motherfucker.
Oh man,
so badass, bro.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I think the Terminator's death was pretty lame, to be honest. I feel like though they had to be in a very specific spot under very specific conditions for him to die. But also, like, I feel like it was kind of lame.
Well, fuck
you. Thanks. I knew it was going to be an unpopular opinion. But, like, I feel like how badass he is and how much he survived, and he's blown in half, and he's still going after, and the thing that kills him is a hydraulic crush. Like, I was like, oh, come on.
I mean, I guess it's a letdown for the 80s, but, like, they kind of set the tone with every movie and up. I'll give all the Terminators this much credit, right? They're not all great movies, but they upgrade the model. It becomes more difficult, more unique to kill them, where it doesn't necessarily have to be such a plot driven way to write the final fight, but they always find a way to up the game. And I think, to your point, this is probably the least satisfying one, but
and now the most recent ones are so ridiculous that they essentially can't die.
Did you see the last one? We'll talk about this later. Zoinks, Scooby-Doo. Zoinks. Yeah, John's eyes are in the back of his skull right now.
Yeah.
We're at the end of the film here. If it wasn't obvious already, Kyle Reese is the father. If what happened at the hotel wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah, I think it's funny. I think it's funny because she's recording herself so that she can have tapes for John. And earlier in the movie, they said, who's John's father? He's like, well, he doesn't talk. They don't know much about him. I know he died before the war. And they make that so he when all that stuff happens in the hotel and then he dies there, you're like, oh, okay, there's another nod to it. But then she says, do you think do you think John would still send Kyle back knowing that he's his father? And I'm like, well, that's the only reason why he sent him back, I'd have to assume. Like, because if Kyle doesn't go back and save Sarah Connor, then John doesn't become John. I think it is a pretty, like, there's a roundabout.
They address that in a movie. I want to say it's Salvation, where they address that he specifically, John Connor, focuses on keeping Kyle Reese alive once he knows, because he knows it's his dad. So Kyle Reese, when he gets in the camps and everything, they risk everything to go get Kyle Reese. So, like, I think he does know, and he sends him back on purpose to go pork his mom.
Pork my mom.
We see the picture, the familiar picture of her that Kyle Reese had, and then that's the end of the movie. This movie's awesome. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, peak 80s sci-fi. It's a classic.
This wasn't even the classic movie in the franchise either, and it kind of gave you the tingles and the feels. It's like, damn, bro, yeah.
Yeah. In my opinion, this is not even the best movie of the franchise, but it's still great.
Yeah. It's good, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's no T2. Just no T2.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna kind of elaborate. I really didn't enjoy this movie as much as I thought I was going to. So I appreciate this movie.
Yeah.
And I love what it did for the franchise, because, like I said, T2, and I said this before the podcast even started, this movie made me appreciate Terminator 2, T2, Judgment Day even more, having watched this one, because I feel like it started slow. When it got going, it was very good, and everything was kind of linear, and everything went the way that me knowing how the franchise turns out is going to go. But, like, to just sit down and watch it, I had a hard time just, like, staying focused on it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because everything was so dated or what, but Terminator 2, I know I've seen a couple times, like, recently, and every time it's on, I stop and watch it. And that movie is just an entertaining movie all the way through. And it's just a better story, I think, too.
So this is kind of like the case in point for all of Cameron's pre-90s trilogies, is the first movie is always a story piece or like a character piece, and then you get the blockbuster film in the second one, or like the third one if there is one. So that's kind of like his formula. And you're right, it's a lot of it was in the beginning. I enjoyed this thoroughly, but it's a lot of talking, it's no action, it's a lot of, if you weren't listening or you were chewing your popcorn and missed it, you missed a lot of the movie.
Yeah.
But I still think the movie is, like, I don't know, it changed everyone's thought on time travel, and, like, literally their entire shtick is on time travel, so they could make endless movies. I don't know, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the linear. Some of the things you didn't like, I kind of liked about it. That's what
you gotta think too. I think there's a big separation, as far as, like, I think what sequels, how movies go normally. Like, there's a 7-year gap between the Terminator and Terminator 2. Like, they definitely took their time with the second one on how to make what with what was received already very well, and they made it even better in the second one. But yeah, I think that's another thing that plays into it too, is that that they feel like they're sequels to one. Like, T2 is a sequel, obviously, but, like, they feel like very different movies. I think just because of that 7-year gap there.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Oh.
And the CG stuff had gotten way better, and the physical effects stuff had gotten way better. Or maybe the budget was more too, so they had more access to that stuff. But I think you're right. It just, like I said, I appreciate the second one so much more, knowing what it came from. Because I think it's leaps and bounds a better movie.
I mean, think about too, like, Arnold is probably the worst actor on that slate, right? Just top to bottom when this came out. Probably the worst actor. He did Commando, Predator, Running Man, Red Heat, Twins, Total Recall, Kindergarten Cop. All this in between Terminator 2. So, like, he did some he did some actual acting and kind of helped carry the load. And when you give those Terminators personality, which they found different ways to, skip 3, in the other ones, like it adds to the value. So you're right. Like Cameron got ballsy in Terminator 2. Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh my god. Now I need to watch Terminator 2 tonight now.
Yeah, I did.
Video games, but like now I'm like,
maybe one of the wheels will land on 1991.
Oh, no doubt.
And that'll be our chance to do Terminator 2.
Yeah, because I don't want to dive into it too much because I feel like if that is an option, Terminator 2 is going to be the one we choose.
Mm.
So I don't want to go into it too much, but there are some things. So some stuff from the first movie that carries over that I really liked. In the second one, you know, basic plot is Arnold Schwarzenegger comes back to protect John Connor now. But I love how they explain stuff like he takes lines from the first movie because John Connor programmed it into him to make Sarah Connor and John Connor from today's world trust him more.
Yeah.
So like the "come with me if you want to live" is what Reese said to Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes him out of there. So the Terminator comes back, and in the second movie, he says it to Sarah.
Yep.
And then she gets flashbacks, and she immediately trusts it. So they did like a lot of cool stuff like that. So yeah, there were 7 years between those movies, but they still took from the source material and made it true. And I think that that's a James Cameron masterpiece. So he can take something that's like a really solid foundation of a story and use it to improve his second version of it. I think it's really cool.
Yeah. I'm just looking at Terminator 2 now, and I'm looking at like just kind of like some of the effects to see what he would have done differently than he did in the first one. And I think we've already covered this, but just to recap, he keeps the CGI to a minimal. Everything is like prosthetics. Everything is in front of your face. The CGI is obviously because they use the T1000.
Yeah.
But like, holy shit, what a great job in 84. If he stayed true to his guns, didn't use CGI, just fantastic work.
I agree.
Yeah, this is one where Terminator is a franchise that they've tried a lot to keep it going, with a variety of movies. But I think with this franchise, you can't get it's too difficult to get past the first and second one.
The third one's kind of a nosedive.
They tried with Terminator 3 and Salvation and Genesis and Dark Fate, and
John hates Dark Fate.
That's the most recent one.
Yeah,
Dark Fate. Yeah, I got problems with that one.
I liked Genesis more than I liked Dark Fate.
Yeah.
Which one was Genesis?
The one right before it.
Yeah, I can't remember what that one was about.
That one I only saw once. I don't remember it too well.
That's the one when the girl has like the bunker underground, and then she lives with him, and he's preparing her for the apocalypse and all that stuff. Emilia Clarke's in it as Sarah Connor.
Oh! Now I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie wasn't ideal.
It's not ideal, but it's better than Dark Fate.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I'm in the minority on that one, but okay.
Oh wow.
But yeah, we could talk about the Terminator franchise, a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that gets me about this franchise too, like not to get too far off the base, but like, at what point do they get a reboot? And I'm not saying that they should touch 1 or 2, because 1 and 2 alone are like masterpieces. But maybe they do a little something different than trying to continue this story. Because like,
isn't that what they just did?
I know, but like, you know what I mean? Like, at what point do they stop? And I think now is the time, because I think they killed off all the main characters, or really close to it.
I think the next thing that they want to do is I think they're going to try something animated for Terminator.
They've already done an animated series for this, and it's really good.
Yeah.
So if they could expand on that, it'd be great. It's like comic book stuff too. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I think maybe something not live action is the way to go
Yeah.
for them. But yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? Mario's getting a live action movie, so anything's possible.
No, Mario's getting an animated movie.
Oh, that's animated.
Whatever, dude.
The live action movie for Mario is already perfect.
Dude, if we ever touch that one day, oh, that'll be the day.
I want to throw up just thinking about it.
Dude, all right. We'll end that here. That was our talk with the Terminator. Thanks for tuning in for this episode here. We're gonna get into our selection here for the next year, where we're gonna pick a movie out of it, and the following episode after this will be a movie from that year. So I've already spun the wheel. We already recorded. We already recorded us spinning the wheel. I'm gonna end it there, and you're gonna find out what year the next episode will be from. That's it for episode 7. George and Mike, thanks as always. See
Peace
you
out.
next time.
So I have years between 1970 and 2020, as usual. So we're going to spin the wheel, and we're going to find out what year we'll be choosing a movie from and what the next episode will be about. So let's spin the wheel. (2002). All right, so a little more recent than as of late. All right, so the next episode will be a movie from the year 2002.